Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I have a bunch of new stories for you to enjoy. Whether you're trying to sleep, do homework, chores, or anything really, this video will be perfect for you. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy these videos, and discuss the stories with each other in the comments. Now let's get right to the first story.
Story 1. My golden child sister steamrolled our siblings' graduation for her wedding, so I'm dropping out to show her the world doesn't revolve around her. Posted by you/brotherconflict. I, 23M, am one of 7 kids. There's Lydia, 31F, Josh, 28M, Leo, 25M, me, then Aaron, 21F, Nadia, 18F, and the surprise child, Lexi, 4F. With that many siblings, it's easy to get lost in the crowd. Some of us have our positions, so to speak. Lydia's the oldest, Lexi's the baby, I have a kid, yes, that's my descriptor, Op gave us a grandchild, and Aaron is the golden child. She was the last planned child, the one supposed to tie up our family. She was born premature, so I understand that my parents coddled her to an extent, but it's more than that now. Erin's getting married and recently told us that she's brought the date forward due to a cancellation. No big deal, it just means they're getting married sooner. But the new date lands on the day of Nadia's high school graduation. Erin was sympathetic but said she's already committed to the date, they've printed the invitations. My parents normally go overboard for our high school graduations, but they said they just have to miss Nadia's. We were all sympathetic, thinking it wasn't intentional. Or so I thought. But Nadia later told me and Leo that she was there when Erin got the call about the cancellation and told Erin that she was graduating that day, but Erin just laughed and accepted the date anyway. This, as much as I hate to admit it, sounds like a very Erin thing to do. She booked her engagement party for the night of Nadia's 18th birthday. Luckily, she wasn't celebrating until the weekend. She announced her engagement at my oldest sister's wedding anniversary. Everything is about her. I confronted Erin about this, and she said that Nadia's high school graduation didn't matter. She wanted to get married to the love of her life sooner, and our family had been to plenty of high school graduations at this point anyway. She said something like, "We still have Lexi." But here's what gets me the most, Nadia's been looking forward to this for so long. She's watched all of us graduate and have these huge celebrations thrown by our parents. I asked Nadia what she wanted, and she said she wanted to have her day. So, I told my family that Nadia and I won't be attending the wedding. Leo has also dropped out. Everyone's angry. Erin's furious, and I didn't make it better by telling her that I could watch our other siblings get married since it's all the same in her eyes. Mom is trying to convince me to come to the wedding because graduation isn't as important, but I feel like if I don't do this, then it sets a precedent in Nadia's life that she's always going to mean less than Erin. I've had messages calling me a jerk, an idiot, etc. They're telling me to step up and be a good brother, but that's what I'm doing. My son is supposed to be the ring bearer, but with how my family is reacting, I'm considering pulling him out of the wedding, too. My dad's told Nadia he'll take her to dinner after the wedding. Nadia's currently staying with me because mom won't stop cornering her. Am I the jerk for skipping my sister's wedding? Update 11 days later. It's 2 days after D-Day, and I finally come bearing an update. I've had to condense it quite a bit because a lot has happened. Before I start, Nadia wanted me to thank everyone who congratulated her on her graduation. She was overwhelmed by the support you all gave her, especially after she faced such opposition from our family. So, let's start. Last Friday, Leo and I went to speak to our parents and Erin. I wanted to tell them that I'd be pulling my son from the wedding. Our older siblings ended up turning up as well, so it was us 4 standing up for Nadia. Leo had spoken to them the night before and helped them see things more clearly from Nadia's perspective. Apparently, it didn't sink in with them that Erin chose the date intentionally. There was a lot of yelling. Erin accused me of trying to sabotage her wedding, and our parents tried to convince me to let them take my son to the wedding, but I stood my ground. I felt a lot stronger with my older siblings with me. There's only 2 years between me and Erin, after all, I'm not much of an older brother. Luckily, Lydia was there. Her words carry more weight as the eldest, and she didn't give Erin or our parents room to argue as she told them that Erin chose the date intentionally, admitted as much in front of me and Leo, and that this was normal behavior for her. Lydia told them that if they continued to favor Erin so blatantly, the rest of us would go no contact, and Lexi would likely follow in the future. Our dad started yelling. Not at us, but at Erin, surprisingly. I've never seen him so angry before, and to see it directed at Erin was shocking. Our mom asked us to leave. We didn't hear from anyone on that side until Monday, when Erin's fiancé George asked to meet us at our parents'. He apologized to Nadia. He didn't know that the wedding and graduation overlapped, nor did he know that it was something Erin did on purpose. Our dad was the one to tell him. What followed was a long talk between us, during which we all aired our grievances. I told our parents that we all felt they valued Erin more. That none of us mattered to them compared to her. Her artwork always went up on the fridge, ours always went in the drawer type thing. I told them that, as a parent, I could never imagine treating my child like that. Erin tried to argue. She tried to tell us that we were trying to turn her into a bad guy, trying to turn our parents against her, trying to sabotage her wedding. Our mom told her to be quiet, that it was our time to talk. George stepped in to tell us that he didn't expect us to attend the wedding, but we were welcome to attend the reception. He went so far as to say that he wished he could have cancelled the wedding altogether, but it had only cost him more money than he'd spent by bringing it forward. Mom's willingness to hear us out lasted less than 24 hours. By Tuesday, she was begging us to reconsider. Apparently, our feelings meant nothing in the face of Erin's dire stress and the fact that people would be questioning our absence on the big day. I haven't spoken to my mom since, but I did ask my dad to bring me some of Nadia's things because she is going to be staying with me full time. We have officially gone no contact with our mother. Dad took Nadia out for an early graduation celebration on Wednesday. They had a daddy-daughter date that I think she really needed. He apologized for a lot of things and told her he wanted to do the same with the rest of us. But Wednesday was about her. I'm happy she got that one-on-one time with him. She was happy coming home to me. In our sibling group chat, she said that she really thinks Dad is going to try to mend bridges with us, even if Mom won't. Dad also turned up early yesterday morning, I'm talking 6:30 a.m., to give Nadia flowers. He told her that he was proud of her. George even called while he was getting ready for his big day to congratulate Nadia, which I really appreciated. We didn't hear from Mom or Erin. Our paternal grandma ended up coming to the graduation with us. It was a great day. Like, a really great day. We didn't think about the wedding, didn't think about Erin. We just had fun together. My son got to wear his aunt's cap and gown and nearly drowned in the fabric. Our grandma tried on the cap, too. We took photos and sent them to our dad, who posted them in a Facebook post he wrote to congratulate both Erin on her wedding and Nadia on her graduation, and we laughed about how it must have pissed off our newly wedded sister. We went out for dinner, and we, as siblings, gifted Nadia money for a week away with her best friend, which somebody suggested in a comment on the initial post. I texted George my congratulations. Despite everything, I do hope he and Erin are happy together. While she might not love us, I don't doubt that Erin loves him. Yes, she wants her spotlight and her moment, but I don't think she's marrying him just for that. Bringing the wedding forward? Sure, that's a hugely malicious tactic to bring herself more attention. Marrying him for the sake of having a wedding? She isn't that type of narcissist. As of right now, I plan on staying no contact with my mom unless she makes some big changes. This is a sentiment shared not only by the majority of my siblings but is also encouraged by our dad and grandma. She's tried reaching out to me and my partner, mostly berating us for not attending the wedding and accusing us of planning to keep her grandchild away from her. At the moment, our summer looks busy. We're planning on filling it with as many family outings as possible before Nadia leaves for college. We've also got Josh's 29th birthday to plan. Our dad's even joining in. This might cause a bigger rift between him and Mom, but for now, at least, it looks like we're his priority. Lydia's threat really did something to him. Thanks to everyone who left comments on the original post. I know they really cheered Nadia up when she was worrying about whether or not she was doing the right thing by choosing herself. Part of me wishes we could have taken this stand earlier, but it took us a while to find our voices. Looking into the future, I do see 2 empty spaces at my own wedding, but I also see 5 siblings cheering me on. I'm happy with that. Second update 5 months later. It's been about 5 months since I last posted, and I've had some requests for an update, so I figured I'd sit down and write one up. Bear in mind, a lot can happen in 5 months, and that's definitely true for this. Let me start off with July. Erin and George went on their honeymoon, and their absence sent our mom into a frenzy. She wasn't used to having no one around, someone was always visiting, mostly Erin, but the rest of us would visit out of obligation and to see Nadia and Lexi. With Erin on her honeymoon and the rest of us no contact, Mom had no visitors, and she really didn't like that. Literally the day after Erin left, we started getting bombarded with phone calls. She tried convincing Nadia first, which Lydia thought was a strategic move because Nadia is the more timid of all of us and, thus, more likely to be persuaded. When Nadia turned her down, she turned her sights on the rest of us. We all got identical phone calls with her trying to persuade us to visit her, to understand her, to see things from Erin's perspective. She even brought up the circumstances of Erin's premature birth and how it was a miracle that she was even here. Josh told her to do better with Lexi. Lydia blocked her number. When the phone calls didn't work, she started turning up at our homes. She continued spewing much of the same stuff she had over the phone and before the wedding. She didn't understand what she'd done so wrong, why we were treating her like this. She called me ungrateful and disrespectful. She accused us of harboring unnecessary jealousy towards Erin and said that she loved us all equally. I didn't respond to these comments. I was just trying to prevent her from going inside and saying the same things to Nadia, who was with my partner and son in the living room. Her comments didn't deserve a response, and when she was done, I asked her to leave as calmly as I could, but truthfully, I felt a little like crying. But who wouldn't feel crappy with their mom yelling in their face like that, trying to downplay years of pain and calling it unnecessary jealousy? My siblings and I have been let down time and time again by her and our dad ever since Aaron was born. They missed out on so many things over the years, both big and small. But we had one thing. One thing. One thing that they never missed, and we were happy with just that one thing, and that was our high school graduations, but they couldn't give that to Nadia. All we had were our high school graduations. They missed Josh's college graduation because Aaron broke her leg. It was an accident, I get that, but they never made it up to him. They never celebrated this huge achievement afterward, and he just had to grin and bear it. Our mom didn't turn up to my partner's baby shower after making such a huge fuss about it because Aaron didn't want to go and wanted them to get their nails done together instead. But our jealousy is unnecessary? Sorry. I don't know how I managed to stay calm when she was yelling at me, but I did. Asking her to leave made her switch tactics, though, and she started calling out for my son, trying to coax him to go to her and telling me that she had a right to see her grandson. My partner stepped in then, because she was seething, and took my place at the door. Mom yelled some more, but she left when my partner threatened to call the cops. Mom repeated this song and dance with my older siblings but similarly got nowhere with them. Then came the Facebook posts. Indirect rants about ungrateful people and how shocking it is that some kids could turn against their parents so easily. Erin somehow got involved while on her honeymoon and called Lydia to scold her for being mean to our mom. But as I've said before, Lydia is angry and she's had enough. Whatever she said to Erin prevented her from calling the rest of us. There was then a Facebook post about how much it hurt to be kept from a grandchild. Now, there were no names mentioned, but there is only one grandchild, and that is my son. My mom's sister called me. There was yelling. I blocked the number. I know Dad was trying to convince our mom to just leave us alone. He kept apologizing because she just wasn't listening to him. Erin came home after 2 weeks. She tried reaching out to Lydia again, asking for us all to talk because, and this is a quote from Lydia, clearly we, all have some issues to work out. We did not turn up. Erin was very angry at that because she's not used to us turning up for her. July wasn't all bad, though. While our mom was on a rampage, our dad was still trying to do better by us. And he's improved a lot. In July, he and I went out for a meal together, just the two of us, and grabbed a drink, and he apologized. It wasn't a generic apology that he could have repeated to all of us, about how he's sorry that he hurt us and neglected us, but he brought up specific instances that he wanted to apologize for. He thought back on all those years and picked out moments that he wanted to apologize to me for. I know he did the same for the others, but having him apologize for things like canceling a fishing trip because Erin needed him was something I wasn't expecting. And I never really cared for fishing, but I wanted to go on that trip because I always saw it on TV, you know? I'd always see a dad and son fishing together, and I wanted to have that. I wanted Dad to prove that I was a priority to him somewhere deep down. It didn't happen, and I never asked again. But we went fishing in July. What started as a trip between the two of us soon grew into a family day out when my siblings expressed an interest in going fishing, too. My brothers first, then Nadia, and even Lydia, who hates the smell of fish. Dad brought Lexi and I brought my son, and it was great. It was one of the best days of my life. I suck at fishing, but I'm pretty great at collecting seashells. It was brilliant. Our parents did end up arguing when Dad went home. I wasn't there, so I don't know every little detail, but from what Dad told me, the argument was mostly because Mom didn't understand why we were still in contact with him and not her. She found it insulting that we were repairing our relationship with him. She was angry that Dad wasn't pushing us to forgive her, or why he wasn't stopping us from acting out. She was angry that he didn't extend an invitation to her and Erin for the fishing trip, and she was even angrier when he explained that their presence would make us uncomfortable. Josh turned 29 at the end of July. We booked an escape room for the 5 of us siblings, then we met our dad and partners for dinner that evening. Josh introduced us to his new partner for the first time. All of our attention was on Josh, the day was completely about him, which was a first for our family. Then there was a party thrown for him by his friends, which I came out of with a massive hangover. Mom started giving us the silent treatment in the middle of August. Dad moved out in September. While we were getting the silent treatment, Dad was bearing the brunt of her anger, and it really took it out of him. He was trying to do better by us, and she was trying to villainize us, and he ultimately told her that if she didn't take accountability for her actions soon, then he'd be contacting a lawyer. Mom didn't take him seriously. He's been staying in Lydia's guest room since. Mom doubled down and said that he was blind for not seeing how we were manipulating him. Unlike the rest of us, Dad obviously still has regular contact with Erin, and according to him, she's even told Mom to reconsider. Unsurprisingly, Erin's involvement is what got Mom to relent. I'm not sure if she's thinking about how she's treated us or if she's silently stewing. I know she asked Dad if he's going to move back home, but he said that it was better for them to have space right now. Personally, I'm struggling to see an outcome where our mom sincerely admits that she was in the wrong. I think she'll say it just to get Dad back home and the rest of us talking to her again. I don't think she'll ever hold us to the same level as Aaron. In brighter news, there's officially less than a year left until my own wedding. Currently, there is no place for my mom or Aaron. My partner, Jade, and I are having our fathers wear ties that match me and my groomsmen, something I originally didn't plan to do, but I'm happy with the change. Nadia's settled in at college. She's made some new friends with kids in her classes, and she's enjoying it. She's happy. Even though we have an active group chat, she FaceTimes me every few days just to talk. Most of what she says I've already read in the group chat, but I'm always willing to listen to her stories again. Nadia never used to talk this much. She looks a lot happier now than she did 5 months ago. I think that's everything. I'm sorry for the novel, but like I said, a lot can happen in 5 months. Third update 7 months later. So, it's been about 7 months since my last update, and I thought one was well overdue. I actually intended to sit down and write one out a few months ago, but life got in the way. A lot has happened, most of it good, some of it not. I'm sure you can guess what, or who, the reason for the not so good moments was. Mom was silent through Lydia's birthday in October but made a huge song and dance for Aaron's in November. None of us make it a habit to check her social media accounts, and honestly, we'd have blocked her if it weren't for Lexi, but Leo sent a screenshot in the group chat about a post she'd made. The post essentially painted Aaron as the perfect child, her precious angel, and said how she'd always be proud of her. She didn't even mention Lydia on her page at all during her birthday, but I can't say I'm surprised. Thanksgiving was different, but fun. We all drove out to our paternal grandparents' place a few hours away to spend it with them. Technically, it was supposed to be an in-law year, since Jade and I tend to switch who we spend it with so that neither one of our families feels left out, but she suggested we switch it up this year so I could be with my siblings on the first big holiday since the fallout. My in-laws are great people and have been really supportive throughout all of this, and I'm really grateful for them, too. Mom didn't reach out to us on the day, but I could tell she was fuming. It didn't help that she was being asked questions after Lydia posted a Thanksgiving Day photo that didn't include her or Aaron. In December, she started a group chat with all of us and Dad, essentially telling us it was time to stop this petty drama and focus on family. But none of us are stupid. We all know she wanted to show off her picture-perfect family over Christmas, and how could she do that when all but 2 of her children can't stand to be near her? Aaron was in the group but didn't speak up, which was odd for her, but none of us really thought much of it at the time. Dad said he'd swing by to see Lexi, but he had no interest in spending Christmas with her until she was ready to admit to the pain they'd caused us. A week later, my birthday also went ignored by her, but that was fine. It only proved that she had no intention of admitting she was the bad guy. She got more desperate as Christmas drew closer. The messages and phone calls started up again, but I could ignore those for the most part. What I couldn't ignore was coming home from work to find her on my doorstep. She told me she'd been waiting for ages, like I was expecting her visit and had done it intentionally, which, honestly, I probably would have, given the state of our relationship. I'm just grateful my family wasn't home. Jade was on her way back from work herself, and our son was with her parents. I didn't want to invite her inside, but honestly, given how desperate she looked, I also didn't want to deal with her where my neighbors could see. This woman told me that Christmas was about family and forgiveness. She told me I was taking it too far by keeping her grandson away from her, and how confused he must be without her. She said it like I was using my son to punish her. I told her it was better this way, because we all knew what would happen if Aaron had a child someday. My son would be pushed to the side like the rest of us were, and I didn't want that for him. She said I was being ridiculous and once again used that line, "I love you all equally." I asked her to leave because nothing was changing my stance, and I wasn't going to be spending Christmas with her. She got angry. She started yelling, and while I want to say I kept my composure, I didn't. I started yelling too. The more I yelled, the more worked up I got, to the point that I started shedding tears. Reddit, this was years of hurt rushing to the surface. I don't think I will ever understand how she can claim to love us all equally but tell her crying son to stop being so dramatic. She left only when Jade came back and saw the state I was in. Jade's little but fierce and would do anything for me and my son, and I swear my mom left terrified of her that day. The social media posts picked up again. She played victim, shared posts about children not respecting the sacrifices mothers make for them, and stuff like that. She posted how we didn't appreciate all that she'd done for us, but we all ignored it. We did our own Christmas. Jade, our son, and I visited the in-laws on Christmas morning, watched our son and nieces open their presents there, and then went over to Lydia's house. She offered to host us all this year. Dad took his place in the kitchen, joined by his assistant chefs Josh and Lydia's husband. We didn't see our mom or Aaron until January. Lexi turned 5, so there was a party, and we weren't about to punish our sister for the actions of the demon that birthed us. So we went. There were some questions, but people didn't push when it was obvious that none of us wanted to get into it. Mom acted like everything was fine, but Aaron stayed away from us. At the end of the party, as we were helping clean up, Mom said it was good that we were finally putting things behind us. Lydia told her the only thing we were putting behind us was her. That started her off again, but she quickly realized she was outnumbered and headed inside. That was when Erin approached us with her husband. Honestly, I was expecting her to tell us to go easy on our mom or something, but instead, she apologized. She said she'd been doing a lot of thinking since all of this started, and she realized that she had treated us badly her whole life, and part of that was influenced by the way our parents treated her. She told us she didn't expect us to forgive her, but that she just wanted to tell us that she was sorry. We left a little while later. There was silence at the end of January and in February for Leo and Nadia's birthdays, but we were expecting that. Our days never did matter to her, after all. I got married in April without my mom present. It was hands down one of the best days of my life, second only to the birth of my son. Jade and I were surrounded by the people we cared about most and who cared about us in return. I had both of my brothers as my best men, and Nadia and Lydia were bridesmaids, too. It was better than anything I could have imagined. Honestly, I'm still blown away by the fact I now get to call Jade my wife. It's been amazing. But I'm sure you're all wondering how my mother handled this, and I can tell you plainly that she did not handle it well. Truthfully, when we sent out invitations, part of me hoped that the news just wouldn't get back to her. I hoped it'd go smoothly enough that I wouldn't actually have to talk to her about this decision, but of course, that'd be too easy. She showed up a few days later, banging on my door, demanding I talk to her. I went out. I didn't let her in, despite knowing that the neighbors could see us, and that was solely because I didn't want her inside my home where my son was. I didn't want her scaring him like she was undoubtedly doing. She demanded to know what I was playing at, how I could be so cruel, how I could exclude her from such a special day. I told her plainly that my wedding was a day for me to celebrate with my close loved ones, and she wasn't someone I considered close or a loved one anymore. She'd made her bed, she had to lie in it. Part of me worried that she'd turn up at my wedding. She came by the house a few more times but stopped when I threatened to call the cops. I didn't do it sooner because I guess I'm soft at heart and didn't want to see my mom in any trouble, but every time she showed up to spew some nonsense about me being a terrible son for doing this to her, it drained me. There were social media posts, of course. I had relatives reaching out to tell me I should invite her, asking what kind of son I am, etc., but they stopped when I told them I'd take back their invites, too. No one mentioned her at the wedding, and she didn't try showing up. She did, however, try to prevent Lexi from being a flower girl, like I promised, but Dad quickly nipped that in the bud. Which takes me to the next point, my parents are officially over. Dad sent her divorce papers sometime in February, and I don't think he's looking back at all. This is something that also shocks me, because this time last year, he was much the same as she was. He was someone who cared more about Erin than any of us, someone who brushed off our achievements if they somehow interfered with hers, and now he's an advocate for us. Every time Mom posted something on social media belittling us, he responded with a post uplifting us. I never imagined having such a good relationship with my dad, but here we are. We helped him move into his own place back in March. He's a new man, honestly. He's worked out a 50-50 custody agreement for Lexi, because as much as he'd be happy to have full custody, he wants to believe that she can change like he did. He has said, however, that if he catches even the slightest hint of Lexi being mistreated like we were, he'd be filing for it. In the case of my siblings, life has been going well for them, too. Leo got a raise at work and has adopted a dog that my son is obsessed with, to the point that I think we may need to get a dog ourselves, ha. Josh and his partner are going strong. He fits right into our family, and I couldn't be happier for Josh. He's found someone who really cares about him, and I can tell he's in love. Maybe there will be wedding bells there soon? Lexi, well, Lexi's 5, so there's not really much going on in her life. I think she recently made my dad join her tea party. Edit. Some things I quickly wanted to add. Lexi is obviously aware that things have changed. She's naturally confused about it all. Things changed so much in the space of a year, and I can't imagine what it was like for her living with our parents when Mom was angry all the time. We've let her know that we'll always be there for her and that we're safe spaces if she needs to talk about her feelings or if she has any questions to ask. We don't want this affecting her more than it already has. Josh is the one who's made headway on that. He works in childcare and has experience in things like this. Dad is thinking about setting up therapy for her. But I'm sure you're all wondering about Nadia and Erin. Nadia's great. She's honestly thriving. I think being away from our mom, Erin, and the pressures at home has really helped her find herself as a person. She's made new friends, is excelling in class, and she's just an overall happier person, which is all I care about. She's happy, I'm happy. She's been invited to move in with my dad now that he has his own place and enough room for her and Lexi, but she hasn't decided on an answer yet. She's more than welcome to stay here if she wants, but I know that she also wants to be closer with our dad. I'll support her no matter what, and I've told her that she can try it with dad if she wants, and she can come back if it's too weird for her. Erin is another story. We are no longer no contact with her, but we are low contact. After her apology at Lexi's party, Leo reached out to see if it was genuine. All of us were pretty stuck on what to do, to be honest. Erin was never someone to bow her head and apologize, but how could we know if it was genuine and not a ploy to get us to forgive our mom or something? Erin asked to speak with us in person when Leo reached out to her, and we agreed because we were curious to see how it'd go. We also agreed that if she tried anything, we would be leaving immediately and would block her again. The meeting happened in mid-January, between Lexi and Leo's birthdays. We met at her place. Erin looked like a nervous wreck, like she hadn't slept all night, and honestly, it was really weird because she's normally so put together. Like, even when she was throwing tantrums, she looked better than this. We sat down, and she started off by apologizing to us again. She said that she was needlessly cruel and unfair to us, especially Nadia, and even apologized for trying to ruin her graduation. She said when we all backed out of her wedding, she was confused and hurt because none of us had said no to her before. She thought we were closer than that but realized now that it was one-sided. She thought we were close, and we just wanted to be as far away from her as possible. We asked our questions and she answered every one. Why did you think we were close? Because she'd been acting this way since childhood, partially encouraged by our parents' treatment of us versus her, and assumed that since none of us said anything about it, we were fine with it. Did you ever feel sorry? She didn't, before this whole fiasco. It was normal for her to be the center of attention. Everything was always about her, and she was trying to unlearn that. Why now? It came down to her husband. He'd tried talking to her a few times about her treatment of us, but she never saw an issue with it since, well, we never made it an issue before. He didn't like that response, but he loved her, and she was a lot kinder outside of our family unit, so he hoped that if he kept talking to her about it, she'd eventually stop. They fought when she announced their engagement on Lydia's anniversary, and they fought again when she booked their party on Nadia's birthday. He couldn't understand how she could be so cruel to her family, and she told him that he didn't understand our family dynamic and that we were cool with it. The stuff with Nadia's graduation damn near ruined their relationship, and I don't know how she convinced him to stay with her, because George admitted he was very close to walking out the door. She said she was on our mom's side for a while because she really did think we were just acting out. We'd never been like this before, so why were we like this now? She didn't get why we were ignoring her, why we'd suddenly cut her off, and admittedly had a breakdown over it. George told her we'd likely been carrying that hurt and bitterness with us for years. She said that she knew she was a brat, but didn't realize how bad she really was until George and our dad laid it all out for her. That's why she told mom to leave us be, so that we could have peace from it all, and it turns out dad wasn't the only one bearing the brunt of mom's anger. She was constantly blasting Erin's phone, turning up at her place, dragging our names through the mud. It got worse when dad moved out, and suddenly Erin was all she had in the world. Mom called us awful names that Erin, thankfully, didn't repeat. Mom told Erin that she was all she had now. George vouched for how bad our mom was, said he'd come home from work often to find Erin staring at a ringing phone. She didn't want to answer but knew if she didn't eventually, then mom would turn up at her house. I know Erin was awful to us ever since she was born, but it really hurt seeing her like this. I think she herself was a victim of our mom's behavior, albeit in a drastically different way. She said she wanted to reach out to us sooner but knew we probably didn't want to speak to her. She just couldn't help herself when she saw us at Lexi's party and needed to apologize. We parted ways conflicted. On one hand, Erin had always been selfish. She'd been manipulative and downright mean, she always found a way to overshadow us at every turn, at every achievement. Nadia's graduation was proof of that. On the other hand, she looked tired. She looked worn, and she looked guilty, and I didn't want to believe that was an act put on for the sake of getting us to forgive her and then our mother. None of us were sure how to proceed, but then Jade suggested that we invite her to the wedding. Or, rather, we invite her to the reception, after everyone's eaten. We had a few friends coming at that time, too, who couldn't attend the wedding itself due to inescapable engagements. That way, if Erin did try to bring our mom, security would catch it and we'd know for certain whether or not Erin had turned a new leaf. Reddit, Erin attended the reception. She didn't bring our mom, didn't even mention her. She and George arrived, and Erin cried as she congratulated me. She told Jade she looked beautiful and hugged my son. At some point, she took Nadia aside, and when they came back, they were both a little teary-eyed. Nadia later told me that Erin wanted to apologize to her properly, one-on-one, and didn't know if she'd get another opportunity to do so. George thanked me for giving Erin a chance. He told me that she really could be a warm, kind-hearted person. I told him I hope to meet that version of her someday. And I mean it. If Erin is truly as warm and kind and wonderful as George believes her to be, then I want nothing more than to meet that version of my sister. Now, you may be wondering, you forgot to mention Lydia when talking about your siblings. That was on purpose. You see, it's a good thing Dad moved out of her spare room. She's going to need that space in a few months, and she's not the only one. I knew Lydia was pregnant because she sat both me and Jade down to tell us she was pregnant and worried about her bridesmaid dress, even offering to step down if it was a problem. We, of course, told her not to be ridiculous and that we'd cover the cost of any alterations needed. In the lead up to the wedding, Jade told me that she planned on having Lydia make an announcement during the speeches. I foolishly assumed that Lydia was going to announce her pregnancy to our extended family, and while I was a little hesitant, I agreed since Jade wanted this, and well, at least she'd gotten permission, unlike someone would have. Reddit, Lydia made a speech about pregnancy, and how she couldn't wait to be a mom, and how she was grateful to be sharing at least part of her pregnancy journey with Jade. Reddit, this was how I found out my wife was expecting our second child. Again, I wish I could say I maintained my composure, but I didn't. I cried. I was so overwhelmed with happiness that I couldn't help myself, and I'm sure my friends will forever make fun of me for it. It felt like all the crap we'd been through this past year was worth it all for that moment. To have my family rally around me in an event that I'm sure would somehow have been made about Erin and her wedding if my mom had been present. I haven't spoken much about how this past year has made me feel. Truthfully, I have felt like trash for most of it. I felt like curling up and disappearing. I felt rotten and useless simply because my mother told me I was. I felt sometimes like I couldn't show how I was feeling, because Nadia was here and I didn't want her to blame herself any more than she did. I'm in therapy now, and I'm not the only one, and I'm healing. Right now, I'm happy. I'm so unfathomably happy that I can barely understand it. I'm happier than I've ever been, and I know my siblings will say the same. While our mom will probably say that our family has fallen apart, that's not true. Hers has. The family that she made has fallen apart, but ours has grown stronger. It has grown so unbelievably strong. We were a united front before, but it's like now we've upgraded our defenses. We're coming out of this with stronger relationships with each other, a real relationship with our dad, and 2 new family members on the way. This is what our mom is missing out on, and it's all her own fault. Maybe I'll update you again in the future. I'm not sure if our mom knows yet about Lydia and Jade's pregnancies, but the announcement is out there. We do have her blocked on social media though, so maybe no one's told her the good news. Erin hasn't, at least. So if anything happens on that front, I'll let you know, but for now, I'm happy with where my life is. Thank you all for your support, again, and I hope you have an amazing day. 4th update 9 months later. So, it's been nearly a year and, as expected, a lot has happened. I was thinking about leaving this another 2 months to hit the 1-year mark, but I don't trust myself not to forget. Mom found out about Lydia and Jade's pregnancies shortly after my last update, which went about as well as you could expect. Lydia and I became the targets of her rage, as did our partners. We were the worst people in existence. She turned up on my doorstep and screamed through our Ring camera that she is ashamed of how I turned out. I'm waiting for the day her words don't hurt me so much. But she is my mom, and I think there'll always be a part of me, and my siblings, that will want her to love us. Honestly, I think she made 17 Facebook posts a minute, each one painting us as villains for denying her her rights as a grandmother. She had our aunts call us and tell us we were being ungrateful. One of them managed to catch Jade as she was coming home from work one day and didn't like it when Jade told her where to stick it. I have never cut contact with someone so fast. Mom had to be escorted off Lydia's property by police at one point, too. We wanted to ride it out, but when we spoke about it as a group, Lydia and I decided it was for the best that we pursued restraining orders against her. I couldn't risk the safety of my family anymore. Thankfully, they were granted, and she has thankfully stuck by it. The 4 of us haven't seen or heard from her since, but the others weren't so lucky. In July, Erin actually cut Mom off. She blamed everyone but Erin for it. It was Lydia's fault, and then it was mine, and then it was Nadia's. It was Dad's and Leo's and Josh's. Every one of us was an enemy, every one of us but Erin. I hate that I wasn't surprised. I hate that I was used to the blame. I talk a lot about how happy we are now, but before happy we were sad, and angry, and hurt. I felt like dying, and Josh nearly did. Parents aren't supposed to make you feel that way. I hope to God my kids never feel like this because of me. I both hate my father and love him dearly. He's trying, he's better, but he was once just like our mom. Dad applied for full custody of Lexi, too. I think we've all realized that Mom isn't going to change, and the best thing to do for Lexi is to prevent her from turning out like the rest of us. She is so young, and I cannot imagine her living through the things that we did, through possibly worse, when we have already escaped. Currently, the fight is still ongoing. Mom doesn't want to give Lexi up, but because of her very public issues with the rest of us, and the restraining orders, Mom only gets to have her on the weekends. Dad still isn't satisfied. Lexi started coming home from her weekends with mom saying she doesn't want to go back, so dad's pushing harder to cut mom from the equation completely. Aaron has integrated further into our circle. This Aaron is a lot nicer than the one I grew up with. I tell her a story and she doesn't roll her eyes at me, doesn't tell me that nobody cares what I have to say. She isn't perfect by a long shot, but she's trying. We can tell her she's done something wrong and she'll apologize. She is in therapy. We're also on the list for family therapy with the 6 of us and dad. We're hoping it'll help us move on more. We're hoping it'll let us heal. Mom may be a lost cause, but dad and Aaron aren't, and honestly, that's more than I ever could have even hoped for 2 years ago. Nadia absolutely crushed her first year of college, and she's crushing her second, too. She took dad's offer to move in with him, though she knows that she's always got a place with me, too. She's a lot better at expressing herself now, so she doesn't let dad get away with anything. Nadia and Aaron actually talk now. They spent over a decade under one roof, but they never really talked. Aaron thought Nadia was beneath her, and Nadia was too afraid to anger Aaron. Now they talk and bicker like sisters, like they should have been doing all along. Aaron arranged for the 2 of them and Lydia to have a girls' day to celebrate Nadia's successful first year in college. This is the sister we deserved, and we are the siblings Aaron deserved in return. We don't shrink beneath her anymore. We're equals, for once in our lives. Aaron is also flourishing in her new role as an aunt to all 3 members of the next generation. That's right, my son is officially no longer the only grandchild. Lydia gave birth to her daughter in September. She's got lungs like no one else and the strength of an elephant, but she's cute as hell. Jade gave birth to our second son in November. He's quieter than our eldest was, and for a while he barely slept. Both Lydia and Jade are doing great, though. They're doing amazing, but I knew they would. Right now, I am happy and I am content, and my mom cannot touch this. This isn't for her to corrupt. She will never know these beautiful, wonderful children, and she will never know the versions of us that follow. I hope this will be the last update. I hope this peace will persist. Thank you all for your endless support. You have no idea how heavy these last 2 years have been, how helpful your words really were to us. Story 2. I'm divorcing my wife of 17 years because I found out her male best friend is actually a former FWB. Posted by you/GuiltyToe9875. 1 month ago, I, 43M, found out that my wife's, 41F, male best friend, 40M, was actually her former FWB, and that has enraged me to no end. Not just because they had that kind of past, but because she kept it a secret from me all these years. My sister, 40F, who is also my wife's best friend, knew about it and never told me. When we started dating 18 years ago, we agreed to cut all ties with our exes. Now I've learned that she's been lying to me about that for years. After finding out last month, I spoke to a lawyer and told my wife we were getting a divorce. Nothing she says or does now will change that. I also took a DNA test for my daughter, 16F, and 2 boys, both 12M, and have gone no contact with my sister. Some might say I'm taking things too far, especially with the DNA test, but there's a reason for it. Her FWB and I look strikingly similar. We're both 6 feet tall, have blonde hair, and blue eyes. Until now, I never questioned whether my kids were mine, but after learning about her past with him, I can't help but feel paranoid. On top of that, her FWB never got married because he claimed to have a free soul. It makes me feel like she just settled for me, and if he had ever decided he wanted marriage, she would have left me in an instant. The only silver lining in all of this is that the house we live in is in my name. I inherited it from my grandpa before we got married. For now, I've kicked my wife out of the house and taken her to her parents' place, where I told them exactly why we're getting divorced. I also told my kids because I believe they're old enough to know the truth. Since then, my wife has been calling me constantly, crying and swearing that they were just friends, but I don't believe her. I made it clear that even if the DNA test confirms all 3 kids are mine, I will still go through with the divorce. From what I hear from my brother-in-law, who lives near her parents, she's a complete wreck and barely eats anything. My sister has also tried to reach out to me through her husband, but I told them I don't consider her my sister anymore after wasting 18 years of my life. Honestly, if the DNA test comes back negative, I don't know what I would do. I love my kids more than anything in this world, and finding out that even one of them isn't mine would break me more than anything else. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. I don't understand what your sister had to gain by keeping this secret from you. Trust has been broken. I doubt it can be repaired after 18 years of lies. You will now look back on your whole relationship and question everything, especially any interactions she had with her FWB. I hope you get the results you desire from the DNA tests. Don't take your anger out on the children, they are innocent regardless of the results. Ops response. I met my wife through my sister. She wanted to go on a date with a coworker of mine, and somehow, it turned into a double date. That's where I met my wife for the first time, And we just hit it off. Commenter 2. How did you actually find that out after all those years? Ops response. My sister's ex started working at my workplace, and he seemed like a pretty nice guy. So I asked him why he and my sister broke up, and he told me that he couldn't stay with someone who still hung out with a former FWB. He also said I was a bigger man than he was for letting my wife stay close to hers, something he could never do. Commenter 3. And that's why the sister participated in the wife's lie. She practiced the same thing, continuing a relationship with an old FWB. She couldn't condemn his wife without bringing judgment on herself, since she chose the FWB friendship over her marriage. Commenter 4. Listen, man, at the end of the day, it is still your marriage and way beyond Reddit's pay grade, but consider some solo therapy to work your feelings out. I understand your anger and rage, but I think it's coming from a fear that she cheated on you with him, I think? Honestly, why she wouldn't cut contact and hid it for this long is beyond me, like, what was the point of the deception? Ops response. That's what I keep wondering. The only reason I can think of is that I was the safe choice, the stable option. She always wanted to get married, but he was never the type to settle down. He's more of an adrenaline junkie, someone who chases excitement rather than commitment. Update 1 day later. First, I want to make some things clear. I didn't kick her out of the house like some crazy person. I asked for space, and she accepted. I then drove her to her parents' place, which is a little over an hour away by car. The idea of cutting ties with exes was hers. When she said exes, she meant people like my childhood friend, whom I only dated for a month in high school, but somehow not her FWB, with whom she had a sexual relationship for who knows how long. Yes, cutting him off would have probably cost her half of her friend group, but the same thing happened to me when I cut ties with my childhood friend because of her boundaries. If she didn't want to lose friends over this, she shouldn't have been the one to suggest cutting ties with exes in the first place. I explained the reason for our separation to our children. She lied about something important, and I was upset. I told them that I wanted us to take some time apart for now. The house isn't about money. It's about the sentimental value. It holds memories of my grandparents and childhood, and it's where I've made so many memories with my kids. That's why I consulted with a lawyer about the house first. I would still need to pay at least $100,000 to my wife for the house, but I'm okay with that. I asked her about her relationship with that guy 2 or 3 times early in our relationship. She always assured me that they were just friends, but I felt insecure and asked my sister, who knew them for 4 or 5 years. She told me their relationship was like that of a brother and sister, so I chose to believe her. Big mistake. The FWB was never someone who would settle down and have a family. For as long as I've known him, he's always been traveling, doing dangerous things, and chasing thrills. That's why I feel like I was the safe choice for her. The fact that she kept their relationship a secret from me for 18 years only makes me think I'm right. The results of the DNA test don't matter, they will always be my children. Even if the results come back positive, I still want to proceed with the divorce. However, I should at least try 3 to 6 months of couples therapy, if not for myself, then at least for the kids. About the test results, I'll wait for my best friend before looking at the results so I have someone for support. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Wow, your sister lied to you to protect your wife's cheating? That's cold. Does your sister hate you or something? Ops response. I always thought our sibling relationship was good, I even walked her down the aisle. Commenter 2. Appreciate the update. I was on the fence in the original post about this potentially being workable or not, or being a wild overreaction from Op, but dude, the more I read, the less I can fathom how so much broken trust after so long could be repairable. Wondering if the kids are yours, how often they spent time together, what else she hid or lied about. Decades, like, decades of life, living a lie and now being in doubt about every aspect of your marriage and her personal life. Even if she is 100% completely innocent and only lied about her relationship with the FWB when you started dating, she still forced you to sever ties when she didn't, and she still now has almost 2-ish decades of life with her completely shattered. My only suggestion is, after the dust settles, go find yourself, mate. Talk to someone and make yourself as available for your kids as you can, because at day's end, your life is starting over, and starting it over positively is going to be critical for your long-term happiness and healing. Op adds an edit to his post. So yeah, I don't really know how to start this, but my kids are mine by blood and soul. I can't even begin to describe the mix of happiness, sadness, and guilt I feel right now. But I wanted to give you all an update since you've helped keep my mind occupied and not let my thoughts spiral down into a dark place, so thank you all. So, about an hour and a half ago, my best friend, who I've known for as long as I can remember, drove nearly 3 hours to be with me and help me through this. After he arrived, we shared a drink, and I told him everything. He just listened, let me get it all out, and reassured me that he'd be there for me no matter what. After about 10 minutes, I finally gathered the courage to look at the test results and completely broke down. I collapsed into a crying mess. When I finally calmed down, we started talking about what I should do next. Should I try to save my marriage for the sake of the kids? Would that even be the right thing to do? That's when my friend shared something from his own past. When he was young, one of his parents cheated, but they still stayed together for the kids. And he told me, without hesitation, that it was the worst thing they could have done. He spent years wishing they had just divorced instead of forcing everyone to live in that kind of broken relationship. His words, along with some of the private messages I've received, really hit me. So, I've decided not to try to save the marriage. I will go forward with the divorce. But I also want to make sure that, even after it's over, we can still work together for the best interests of our children. That's why I'll be going to both individual and couples therapy so that we can learn how to co-parent in the healthiest way possible. I'm also looking for a good therapist for my 3 children so that they can begin to heal as soon as possible. Second update 5 days later. I wanted to post one final update on what's been happening after I talked with my wife when she got back from her parents. I've made up my mind to give her a second chance after going through her current phone and her old phone from about 12 years ago. We had a long conversation where I asked her why she made me cut off my exes while she still kept her former FWB. It turns out her first long-term boyfriend of 3 years had cheated on her with a mutual friend, which made her deeply insecure about her future partners having female friends, especially exes. From the time we started dating until I made our relationship official after about 5 or 6 months, she was struggling with those insecurities. When I asked her to make our relationship official and get engaged, she had a conversation with my sister, who suggested that we both cut off our exes. My wife agreed, but my sister convinced her that the FWB didn't count as an ex because they had only slept together twice during a trip to Europe with some friends. Later, my wife regretted lying to me and wanted to tell me about her past with him, but my sister stopped her. She told my wife that bringing it up would only cause unnecessary stress and could even put her pregnancy at risk. Because of that, my wife decided not to tell me but tried to distance herself from him instead. Eventually, she planned to cut him off completely without me ever knowing. However, my sister had other plans. She had a crush on the FWB's close friend and really liked that friend group. She knew that if my wife distanced herself, it would inevitably break up the group, so she pressured my wife into going to meetups where the FWB would be, sometimes lying to her about who would be there. Another possible reason my sister did this was that she herself wanted to keep seeing her own FWB while being in a relationship and didn't want to feel guilty about it. That's the only explanation I can think of. I also asked my wife if she would take a polygraph test to prove she never cheated on me, and she agreed immediately without a second of hesitation. So we're going to try to save this marriage, starting with marriage counseling and other steps to rebuild trust. But first, she has to completely cut off that friend group and block my sister from everything. And to address some of the private messages I've been getting, no, I'm not an abuser, nor have I financially abused my wife. She has been working since our boys turned 2, and my mother moved in with us to help care for them while we both worked. And no, I'm not just looking for an excuse to leave this marriage because of some midlife crisis. I love my wife and my children, and being away from them for weeks or months would be heartbreaking. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Do you believe what she says about your sister? Has she corroborated what your wife says? Also, lie detector tests, if you're actually serious about that, aren't admissible in court for a reason. Ops response. I mean, it's not that I actually believe in lie detector tests. After reading about them and hearing what others have said, I learned they aren't as reliable as I thought. Honestly, I didn't even know they were real. I always assumed they were just something from TV and movies. But, like someone mentioned in my last post, I should at least see how serious she is about taking one. And she really did seem like she wanted to do it, like she was eager to prove to me that she truly hasn't cheated. Commenter 2. I don't know, man, it's not hard to stop seeing a dude over a 17-year period, especially after your sister got married and no longer needed access to her FWB. When's the last time she saw the guy? Ops response. From going through her phone, I'd say that in the past 4 years, she saw him maybe 8 times. Most of the time, she saw him at parties where I was also present. Only twice was I not there, once because I was on a fishing trip with my daughter, and the other time because I had a long day at work and wanted to stay home and relax. Commenter 2. When was this trip to Europe? And why didn't they keep seeing each other? Ops response. Well, the trip to Europe was 2 years before we got together. The reason she gave me was that his kinks weren't something she was comfortable with. My wife does enjoy small things, but nothing extreme like what he wanted. They ended their FWB arrangement after he wanted to try pouring hot wax on her back. Commenter 3. If your wife were a good and honest partner, she would have cut the ex off per your agreement. This is a BS excuse, and she knows it. Don't fall for anything. Clearly, your wife is skilled at deception. This could be another well-crafted, believable lie you want to believe in so badly that it clouds your judgment. Even if you believe your wife is telling the truth, she could have stopped communicating with him to allow your sister to cheat, but your wife kept her FWB around. You have a plan, That's good. You don't have to do anything immediately, but don't rug sweep anything and just believe a story that could be true. And if it is, your wife is still a liar. Your wife lied to you to benefit herself. Her claim that she was actually persuaded by your sister to lie is no excuse. Your wife might be telling the truth, but the trail of thousands of lies still exists. Make sure your wife understands you don't trust her or your selfish sister. What kind of sister would do that? I recommend going through with the polygraph. Many liars agree to it without hesitation because they don't see it as an immediate threat and will agree to it, believing you won't follow through. This will help you heal and remove all doubt. You know your wife can lie to you without batting an eye. What else has she lied about? What other secrets does she have? Any question about her loyalty is fair game to ask. If you don't verify the truth, it'll eat at you. Don't worry about any blowback from your wife getting a polygraph. She's admitted to lying to you, independent of any circumstance. You need to reset the truth, if she's telling it. It's a consequence of her lying to you for longer than you've been married. Ops response. The polygraph is still going to happen, but I just don't trust it that much. However, communication between the FWB and my wife has nearly stopped, with only occasional messages like happy birthday or congratulations. Calls have completely stopped for ages. Commenter 4. Sounds like she's totally throwing your sister under the bus to get into your good graces. Something doesn't add up here. Ops response. Given her personality, I truly believe my sister was able to manipulate her by exploiting her insecurities. When I said she's a people pleaser, I meant it. At the beginning of our relationship, she would do whatever I wanted, which might have seemed nice, but it really wasn't. I wanted her to enjoy herself and do things she actually wanted. It took nearly a year for her to feel comfortable enough to express her own desires instead of just letting me make all the decisions. Story 3.
I found out my boyfriend was cheating on me for our entire relationship, so I found the girl's fiancé and met up for revenge smashing. Now I guess the joke is on me because I'm pregnant. Posted by you/living_temporary 5351. I, 26F, just found out I'm pregnant after having revenge sex with a fiancé, 35M, of the girl, 30F, my ex-boyfriend, 32M, cheated on me with for 2 years. My ex and I met when I was 20, but we were only friends until we started dating 2.5 years ago. I found out last year that my ex had been cheating on me for basically our whole relationship with a girl he met through a mutual friend. I broke things off after I found out and told the girl's fiancé about their affair. He ended up breaking off their engagement, and she seemed nonchalant about it until she realized that my ex's money wasn't actually his. My grandma left me a lot after she passed in 2019, and my ex had been flaunting the things I gifted him throughout our relationship to her, even going as far as to claim that the house and antique car my grandpa left me in his will were his. It's not something I'm proud of now that I think back on it, but I did allow my ex to walk all over me for the first month or two after I broke things off because I missed him so much. I gave him money and tried to make things work, but I would always get reprimanded by my parents and friends when I ran to them crying after he ghosted me for her. I didn't officially give him up until the girl's ex-fiancé messaged me and told me that she was rubbing it in some of their old friends' faces about how pathetic I was and how desperate I was for my ex, who didn't even give an F about me. I was really upset and asked him if he'd be willing to meet up with me because I knew that if I talked to my parents or friends about this, they'd just lecture me even more. He agreed, and the two of us met up at a random food cart place. We ended up spending most of the day just exploring and talking about how we were doing. He also confided in me about his relationship with his ex. They'd known each other for 10 years and had liked each other for most of that time, but he wasn't looking for a relationship because he was focusing on school. He had decided to give them a chance after she drove 12+ hours overnight to see him because they talked on the phone and he said he was feeling under the weather and stressed from how vigorous his residency schedule was. She dropped everything to take care of him, helped clean his place, and made him home-cooked meals after finding out he was surviving off vending machine snacks and instant coffee. He told me in detail how he'd never felt so loved and cared for, how after she did that for him, he decided that she was the one, that if this wasn't love, then love wasn't real. Finding out that she had been cheating for the last 2 years made everything click into place. She'd been pushing off getting married, telling all her friends that she was having doubts about him. He had been trying to convince her to go to couples counseling when I broke the news to him that she was sleeping with my ex. I felt like a monster, hearing their love story and realizing they didn't get their happy ending because of my ex and me. It messed with my head. We continued to talk from time to time, checking in on each other and meeting up for a quick bite every now and then. We lost contact after the girl my ex cheated on me with somehow convinced him to take her back. I became slightly depressed after he cut me off, explaining that he was still in love with her and wanted to work things out, which meant a clean slate. I found out through some internet snooping that my ex cheated on her too, which was why she went back to her ex-fiancé. A few months passed and things went back to semi-normal. I started getting therapy and was about ready to put myself back out there and try the dating pool again when, around New Year's, I got a call from the guy. He was crying and asking if I was available to talk. I, of course, said yes and, out of concern, met up with him at his place. He broke down and told me how he found her and my ex in his mom's guest bedroom during Christmas. She'd snuck him in for a quickie during his family's busy holiday party. All hell broke loose when he found them in the guest bedroom after spending 20 minutes looking for her everywhere. We drank a bit and ended up having sex. He apologized and told me that it was a mistake, that he wasn't in his right mind and just wanted revenge sex, but it didn't make him feel any better afterward. I tried messaging him platonically a few times after to see if he was all right, but he blocked me, so I dropped it and continued with my therapy and life. I went in last week to check with my doctor since I've been getting bad cramps and to get a new prescription refill for my birth control, which I use to help with my PCOS. I had to do the usual test to check for the possibility of pregnancy and was very surprised when it came back positive. I've been sitting on this new knowledge and have been contemplating whether I should tell him, not tell him, or even keep the pregnancy. My doctor informed me that since I am still in the early stages, I'm at a high risk of miscarriage. So, I don't know if I should even be worrying about all of this, since there's a chance I could lose it, and then it'd just seem like I was trying to grab his attention or something, especially after he made it clear that he wasn't comfortable talking to me anymore after we slept together. I haven't told anyone and have been going crazy because I don't know what to do. Update 1 year 3 months later. A lot has happened since my original post. I know a lot of people were against this, but I went through with the pregnancy, and I am forever thankful for my beautiful baby. I had originally planned to get a termination, but I found myself unable to go through with the appointment. I am pro-choice and always will be. Just because I chose to keep my baby doesn't mean another woman/girl should be forced to keep a pregnancy they do not wish to continue. Everyone has a right to their own bodies. My parents were very upset with me, and my whole family disowned me. I listened to what some of you said about letting the father know. I'll be referring to him as Dave. After many failed attempts to reach out to him, I decided to go in person. Dave was not happy when I showed up at his place, but when I told him why, he agreed to talk with me. Dave let me know that he'd officially ended things with his ex and wanted to go no contact with me because I was another tie to his past with her, but he was willing to try and figure out a co-parenting plan with me if I agreed to a paternity test first. I, of course, felt a bit bad about the paternity test part but agreed to it since we had only been acquaintances that bonded over our trauma. Everything was honestly smooth sailing until I started to spot around the 26-week mark. My OBGYN explained that while spotting is normal during pregnancy, mine was heavier, and my blood sugar/blood pressure also worried them because of gestational diabetes and preeclampsia risk. After a few nights of Dave insisting on sleeping on my couch, I had him help me move some of my things to his place since he lived closer to the hospital. I'm very thankful I decided to semi-move in with him when I did because I went into premature labor at 52 weeks. I'm very thankful to have had Dave and his family as my support system. His mom would come and switch out with him at the hospital and advocated for me whenever I felt washed out or unheard. She helped me both emotionally and physically and stood by me. Dave's mom also helped me work through my emotions when all I wanted was my mom. She and my dad had gone no contact with me after I decided to keep and have my baby. Dave's mom was an absolute godsend, also because she's a retired nurse. She started in OB, went to NICU, and eventually later settled into lactation before retiring, and explained things to me when we found out that my baby had respiratory problems and had SUA, single umbilical artery, which could have been a factor in why I went into premature labor. She stayed with Dave and me so she could help me with pumping since I wasn't able to produce milk and encouraged me when I felt like such a failure for not being able to take care of my son when he needed me most. She drove me to and from the hospital while my son was in the NICU because I was healing and so mentally/physically exhausted. I really and truly believe that I didn't fall into deep postpartum depression because she held me and helped me with each step and was always so patient with me, even when I wasn't patient with myself. Dave's mom would constantly remind me that nothing was our fault and no one did anything wrong, it's just that everyone is faced with hardships in life, and this was one we'd work together to get through. My son graduated from the NICU and came home a month after I did. Dave's mom visited us often and helped with him since Dave and I are first-time parents. Dave's dad joked that he felt like she and I had the baby together and that he and Dave were both just background characters that make guest star appearances every now and then since Dave was working so much to build more PTO, and his mom wouldn't bring his dad along when she'd come visit since she didn't want him to disturb me and the baby with his loudness. Dave's dad is hard of hearing and can sometimes be unaware of his volume, so he took no offense to it. Dave's siblings and family members posted a lot about our son because he was the first grandchild and first baby in a long time. Dave's youngest cousin is 17, turning 18 this year. Somehow, someone must have shared a photo or something, but pictures of us reached my family, and my parents demanded I let them meet my son. Dave was supportive of whatever I chose to do and said he'd agree to them meeting him if that's what I wanted. After thinking about it for a few days, I decided that I wanted to talk to my parents before letting them meet my son. When we met up to talk, my parents were offended that I didn't bring my son with me and left him with Dave's parents. They said some really hurtful things, and then my dad started to question when Dave was going to ask him for permission for us to get married since we didn't already have a shotgun wedding while I was pregnant. I was okay with them insulting me since I'd grown up with it and was used to it, but once my parents put their target on Dave and his family, I became upset and decided it was time for us to leave. My parents did try to petition for legal visitation rights. Honestly, before this whole ordeal, I didn't even know that grandparents' rights existed, but were denied because my son is still very young, and because both Dave and I are very much on good terms, are living in the same household, and they couldn't find or prove that there was any danger to our son's well-being. My family did try to reach out to us and claim that we were horrible people for denying my parents their grandchild, but no one ever seemed to be able to make a peep when Dave's family would defend us and point out that my family had been the one to disown me and that no one cared to see if I was okay until after I had the baby and everything was handled. Dave's mom and my mom got into a verbal, almost physical, altercation after my mom made false reports to CPS and called the police to do multiple welfare checks on us. My mom was given a warning by the police for harassing us after one specific incident where she threw a tantrum and caused a scene when the police found nothing wrong in the welfare check and refused to listen to her demands to have my son temporarily taken away from us and put in her custody for his safety. Dave and I currently have restraining orders pending against my parents and certain family members. One of the reasons I decided to update is because about 2 months ago, a friend of Dave's asked him out to have some drinks, and they ran into his ex-fiancée, who later messaged him to tell him that she regretted the way they ended it and how she was very hurt when she heard that we had a baby together, especially with it being so soon after their relationship. Dave wouldn't talk to me about how he felt, and when I asked him, he just brushed me off or switched the conversation to a topic about our son that he knew would distract me. I noticed Dave pulling away from me and how our relationship became a bit awkward and strained after their run-in and her message because I know he still has feelings for her, and I am afraid that he might feel trapped with me and our son. I also noticed that the drama with my family has made Dave and his family less patient with me and my son. During Mother's Day, I overheard a few of his family members make comments to Dave about me being at their family barbecues since I was just my son's mom and not really part of the family. Dave just shrugged and said I didn't have anyone else to spend the day with. With how tense things have been, I've been thinking about moving out and back into my place. I stayed with Dave at his place after I gave birth, but now that our son is slightly older and I am healed, I want to give Dave back some space so that he can start dating again if he wants to and to give him back some more bachelor time when I have our son. I want to find a way to approach me moving out and thus making a co-parenting plan without making things more awkward or possibly ruining the relationship I have with Dave and his parents. I don't want them to feel like I'm not grateful or anything, but I do want to go back to work and get my life back on track so that I can provide my portion of needs for my son and not depend on his family for more than appropriate. Second update 4 days later. I've been trying my best not to check my phone or Reddit since I'm honestly a little overwhelmed right now. I want to let you all know that I did talk to Dave, and he was against me moving out. He also wasn't willing to talk about the situation or how he's been acting after running into his ex, and he said I was bringing up something that didn't matter since we were supposed to be discussing my desire to move out. I haven't said anything about what I heard on Mother's Day, and I don't think I'm going to mention it since I feel really bad. It was meant to be a private conversation, so I don't think anyone meant anything harmful. During our conversation, Dave let me know that maybe I'm just overthinking or overreacting and that I shouldn't make big decisions like moving out. He also talked about how, because our son is a preemie, he'd prefer if one of us stayed at home until he turned 2 to 3 years old so he could catch up with his peers. Then, once he started pre-K, we could go back to work again. But I feel like he's been trying to avoid me since the conversation, though I could also be overthinking like he said. Still, after reading some of the comments, I do feel like my feelings are valid. But I'm also not sure anymore. I want to do what's best for my son. I know people already think I'm so dumb and that I shouldn't have had him, but I am trying to be better for my son. I feel like he's my only family left, and I really want to try to do what's best for him. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. You are not dumb, and you're probably overthinking things a little. You had a lot happen in a short period of time. It's understandable to feel overwhelmed and a bit vulnerable. Do you have friends to talk to, or have you considered therapy? It could help to talk through some of your thoughts and see things from a new perspective or get advice on how to approach certain topics. You can make it clear that you don't want to overstay your welcome without revealing that you overheard a conversation. But to be honest, it was a gathering, and making a comment was a risk they took. You might feel better bringing up that you don't want to make anyone uncomfortable, especially yourself, so perhaps setting boundaries is in order. Plus, you might have heard something out of context or read into it more than intended. I feel bad that your own family is so horrible. Is there no one on your side who isn't so vile? Op's response. As sad and pathetic as this sounds, I don't really have friends. Most of my friends were through my family, or they didn't agree with me having my son with Dave. Not only that, but a large majority of my friends are still friends with my ex, and we drifted apart because I found out that many of them knew about his cheating but kept quiet about it since they had known him longer/better. I was going to therapy, but because I was so busy after giving birth, I haven't gone in a while. I do plan on going back to therapy, but since I'm not currently working, I also don't have the best health insurance, and everything would have to be paid in full out of pocket. So I've been putting it off, especially since I've already dipped so much into my savings. Commenter 2. If you are not in a romantic relationship with Dave, I think you should plan to move out. Get some advice from your pediatrician about how much intensive care your baby needs and plan accordingly. On the plus side, you don't have to move immediately, and you can take time to make the best arrangements. I don't think that 2 to 3 years at home is an automatic requirement for a preemie baby, and you have to take care of your own needs and future in addition to the needs of your child. Dave really doesn't get to dictate what you do here. Op's response. I have honestly never really thought about how I feel about Dave, and I don't know how he feels about me. Everything has been one thing after another, and I've never sat down to think about it. But I do know that I care for him and respect him as a father. Dave is really good with our son and does his best when it comes to being a dad. As for my son's health, he's much better and doesn't need much, but his doctor has warned us that we have to adjust and watch for his milestones to make sure he's growing and developing at an appropriate rate. I think that's why Dave decided on 2 to 3 years, because the doctor told us that once our son is around that age, he should be caught up with his peers and that we shouldn't have to make adjustments to his milestones when evaluating his growth and development. That's why I do want to go back to work. I'm sure daycare teachers and staff, also his parents, since his mom is a retired nurse, are trained to help monitor or watch out for milestones, so I'm not as worried. But I can also see what Dave means and where he may be coming from. Third update 8 months 3 weeks later. I don't think anyone really cares for this update, but I'm going to put it here for anyone who may want to know. After the last time I posted, things were a bit awkward and tense between Dave and me for a few weeks until Father's Day. I honestly didn't feel comfortable going to his aunt's house for their family gathering because of the conversation I'd overheard during Mother's Day, but I went because it was Dave's first Father's Day after we'd had our son the previous year. I initially didn't want to bring up the topic because it was supposed to be a good day, but Dave was actually the one who brought up the topic after we'd returned from his aunt's house. Dave confessed about the Mother's Day conversation with his cousins and said they'd grilled him during Father's Day as well because he'd brought me with him to their aunt's house. Dave apologized for making me worry and for not standing up for me when his family said things about me behind my back, but told me that he honestly didn't want me to move out and for us to split our son's custody, especially because it was comforting to know that he was going to be coming home to the both of us after spending a long day at work. I told him I didn't want to ruin the day and that we could talk about things the next day, but Dave was adamant about us clearing the air because he was tired of how uncomfortable things were between us. Ironically, Dave told me he was afraid of me feeling trapped with him, especially after seeing how traumatizing it was for me to go into premature labor, deal with our son in the NICU/being separated from him, and heal postpartum. Dave also said he felt worse about everything after seeing how my family treated me and then how some members of his own family held it against me. He told me that although he himself didn't mean to do this in any way, he felt like I was trapped and isolated with only him to depend on. He made sure to make it crystal clear that while he would want us to try and work towards a relationship to see where things go, he also didn't want me to feel pressured or feel like I had to stay with him if I wasn't happy or didn't want to. He agreed that he would rather us be on good terms for our son's sake, and if that meant having a friendship-like relationship with mutual respect for one another, then he was okay with that as well. We talked for a while about everything and cleared the air of any questions. Dave let me know that he genuinely didn't feel anything for his ex-fiancée and that the reason for him becoming distant had nothing to do with me. It was because he'd had a life crisis when he thought about how different his life was compared to how he'd wanted and thought it would be. Dave and I came to an understanding that my son and I would continue to stay with him, and I would get a part-time job to slowly ease my way back into working. Things were rocky and a little odd to navigate at first, but Dave's parents helped us a lot with our son when I started job hunting and got a part-time position working at a local bank branch near Dave's place. Dave and I slowly started to explore our relationship to see where things would go between us. It was weird for both of us because of how we'd met and started out, but within 3 to 4 months things got much better. I moved my things from our son's room into Dave's. Our son had a hard time initially when Dave and I began to show more affection, hugging and quick, innocent kisses, with one another because he was a bit jealous of how close we were, since he was used to us only showering our affections onto him and not each other, but he's gotten used to it now. Dave's family has said in a playful, joking manner that we should give our son a sibling to play and grow up with since no one else from Dave's family has kids, but I try to avoid the conversation of when we'll have more kids. I took some of your advice and joined mommy and me groups so my son does have some playmates his age, but I do sometimes find myself feeling guilty for how lonely he may be when it's just him and us at home. This past Valentine's, while in the heat of the moment, Dave did make a few comments about wanting to get me pregnant again, but when I mentioned and clarified it with him afterward, he said it was just him being really into it at the moment. Dave and I have previously had a conversation and agreed that because of my PCOS and how unbalanced my hormones are, I wouldn't go back on birth control because of how I've been feeling much better after the birth of our son. So we are using the calendar method as contraception on my end, but I have tried asking Dave if he'd be willing to use condoms. He's made it clear that he doesn't like them and that it's completely off the table for him because he doesn't like the feeling of being constricted in latex. I know he's clean, and so am I, but we've had 2 previous pregnancy scares. There are times when Dave forgets to pull out, but he's assured me that if we get pregnant again, it wouldn't change anything except that we'd have another baby and I might have to quit my job and stay home again, but I know I'm not ready for that yet. Our son is only just turning 2 later this year, and it's already so hard juggling just one child with our schedules and jobs. I don't know how we'd manage with 2 kids. Dave and I are in a wonderful place right now in our life and relationship, so I don't want to keep bringing up contraceptives or anything because I don't want to ruin the peace. I've been contemplating possibly going back on the pill or looking into other options I could use, but I'm scared to put my body through a whirlwind of hormones and put a toll on my mental health again. If anyone has any suggestions, please let me know. Thank you all so much for your support and kind words. My life has truly changed for the better, and I am forever grateful and thankful to every one of you for your words of advice and wisdom. /relevant comments. Commenter. I don't know who, in this exhausting saga, displayed the most sheer audacity. 1. The ex-fiancé who snuck in her affair partner to hook up in her fiancé's family's house at Christmas. 2. Op's family for cutting her off when she chose to keep the baby, then acting outraged when they weren't allowed to meet or take ownership of the baby. Or 3. Op's baby daddy for convincing her not to be on birth control, not to use condoms, and to continually not pull out, even though she said she doesn't want to get pregnant.
Story 4.
I found out my fiancé is drowning in overdue child support, and now I'm thinking about leaving him. Posted by you/DrowningCP. Okay, so first thing I want to say is that I, 31F, love my fiancé, 33M. He's a great guy, whip smart, kind, funny. A year and a half ago, I would have never imagined I'd be at this point. We've been dating for 5 years, ever since we met. He works at a call center, I'm a postal worker. We make a moderate income, and the wedding is tentatively in April, small, courthouse wedding with a tasteful reception afterward. I apologize in advance for the legal gobbledygook. He hasn't really kept me in the loop, and I'm a mail carrier, not a lawyer. I don't have a head for this. 1 year into our relationship, he got a notice for paternity from the state he used to live in, for a 3-year-old boy. So clearly, this happened way before I met him. He thought it was ridiculous but took the ordered DNA test. Turns out, he is the father. The mother was apparently mentally unwell, and it turned out the boy was in the custody of the grandparents. They offered to adopt the boy if my fiancé gave up all his paternal rights. He jumped at the offer, they pulled some strings. I've heard it's supposed to be hard, but we literally flew down to his old state on the date they told him to, signed some papers in front of a judge, and that was that. I was personally ambivalent about the whole thing. It seemed like he just gave up all rights to his son without a care. But in the end, it's his business, not mine. I told myself I would be a supportive stepmother if the boy ever came to him for help or answers when he was older. There was some messy legal business about arrears child support, because the mother apparently was on welfare for years, and the state wants repayment from my fiancé. I don't know much about it because he refuses to share, only that it's around $20,000. For 3 years. A couple years go by, I take my fiancé to the DMV to renew his license because it's way past expired and he won't do it. Lo and behold, it's suspended. Past due child support judgment for another child. A 12-year-old girl. $30,000. Fiancé is literally sick, and I mean he threw up all night. Worse, in order to get his license reinstated, he had to contact the child support department in his old state and give them all his current contact info, where he works, where he lives. Soon enough, a notice comes through HR, he's going to be garnished 25% of his after-tax pay because of the child support judgment. Reddit, he just shut down after that, stonewalls any conversation regarding the issue at all. I took up more of the bills, but now we're both struggling. We've had to move into a smaller, crappier apartment using my credit alone because his has a big fat judgment on it. He had to refinance his almost paid off car because he couldn't afford the high payments. There's some kind of hearing coming up. I don't know what it's about because he flatly refuses to tell me. I think maybe it's to adjust the payments based on his current income, which has grown due to a promotion. Either way, he hasn't bought plane tickets, or rather, hasn't asked me for the money because he can't afford them. I think he's not going. It'll be an automatic judgment against him. Here's the thing, he could request a DNA test for the girl. He hasn't, though he's told me he's certain he's not the father. He could hire an attorney, I've offered to front the cost, but he has 1,000 excuses. He'd have to get one in his other state, they'd gouge him because he wasn't there, he doesn't have the time, excuse. The hearing is in 3 weeks. I don't know what's going on, and he's so passive about it that I'm worried. So, I opened up an official-looking notice he received a few months back but never bothered to open. There's a third child. This one is a brother of the girl. Maybe the hearing is actually about him? God damn it, I just don't know. He actually left the house for a long walk when I questioned him a few weeks back. I am not a nagging person. Asking him to deal with his BS is uncomfortable for me too. If I have to confront him with an ultimatum, we've reached the point of no return. But I'm almost there. So here's the deal. I love my fiancé. He's $50K, for the first boy and girl, in debt that will haunt him for the foreseeable future. He won't do anything about it, just sticks his head in the sand and hopes it goes away. He acts normal, as if none of this is happening. There might be more on the way, with a third child. If I stay with him, I'll never be able to buy a house. I will have to make all major purchases on my credit alone, we can never combine income. He has abandoned 3 children. I don't know the full stories of the relationships between him and the mothers, other than that they were painful and full of lies. One is his biological child for sure. The other 2 are a question, but they may as well be in the eyes of the state. He doesn't care about them, other than the biweekly garnishment on his paycheck. As far as I understand, he's never asked about them once. I had a pregnancy scare last month. Well, actually, I found out I had been pregnant via miscarriage, no condolences needed, please. I didn't tell him, it's done. But the first thought in my head after I realized what had happened was that my child would have been fourth in line for any support if things went south. Who says he wouldn't abandon me too? We do plan on having children eventually. My heart loves this guy. My head says I'll be throwing away my financial future if I stick with him. What does Reddit say? /relevant comments. Commenter. I was 23 when I married one of these. And yes, our son, born after 7 years of marriage, was the next one he ignored. Not completely abandoned, but close enough to leave years of emotional scars. This is definitely breakup worthy. Red flag 1, didn't tell you about the first 2 kids. Red flag 2, doesn't tell you about the court dates. Red flag 3, didn't tell you that his driver's license was revoked, do not let him drive your car. Red flag 4, refuses to give you any information on the first mother, they may still be married. Red flag 5, he is capable of lying for a very long period of time with zero remorse. It's not just your financial future you will throw away with this man. It is your emotional future with someone who has no problem shutting you out of his life and a history of walking away from his obligations. Your emotions will lie to you. This one isn't good father material, no matter what your hormones say, his actions speak louder than feelings or words. It's okay to break up with him. The sooner, the better. That gives you more time to find someone who is stable, responsible, and reliable in all ways, to be the father of your child. Update 1 day later. Thank you for all of the comments, PMs, and valuable feedback from my other post. The ones that told me I, too, was sticking my head in the sand really resonated with me. As did the ones who gave professional insight that it was simply not possible for him to have been completely blindsided by all 3 children. So I was in a mood when he got home tonight. I showed my fiancé, who I'm now calling Johnny Appleseed, thanks to a previous commenter, the letter I opened about the third child. Luckily, he didn't get all huffy about me opening his mail because I was not in the mood. Johnny's face just fell, and he said it was impossible for him to be the father of the third child. He didn't know about it, not having opened his child support mail over the last few months. He said the mother of the 12-year-old had won a child support judgment against him for the girl and now was clearly looking for more. I told him I thought that was BS and that I wanted the truth now, that I'd been looking through his old state's laws, and the courts can't have ruled him the father of the 12-year-old without evidence. He pulled his usual Stonewall stuff, said it didn't matter because there was a judgment against him and he was screwed for life. He actually started to cry. I kept on him. Finally, he told me the truth. He and the baby mama had been in love since they were teenagers, but it was an on and off relationship. She was drama. She got pregnant, and he was there for her, but right before the baby was born, she told him he wasn't the father. He was stubborn and proud and still signed the birth certificate. But he left her soon after at her request, and didn't have any contact. Why didn't he get a DNA test? It was expensive, and his heart was broken. By the end of this, he was crying. I started crying too, and I told him I can't marry him right now with all this going on. My God, did he go instantly from sorrowful to pissed. He kept asking me how I could do this, that I knew about the child support going in, that he'd always been honest with me. No, he'd said nothing or insinuated she put his name on the birth certificate, not the same as honesty. He said that he knew baby mama was trying yet again to ruin his life. The judgment was already in, there was nothing he could do because the courts always ruled in favor of the mother. There was no point in trying. This was all her fault for trying to ruin his life, and by taking her side over him, I was letting her. I said some things about how he was handling the situation, keeping me locked out of what was going on with the upcoming hearing, that if he kept blowing this off, he could go to jail. Then he started asking me if this was about a male coworker I had once given a ride home, like 3 months ago. If I had an affair with him, WTF, no. I took off the ring, his grandmother's, and told him to take it. That he needed to move out tonight, stay with someone else, and give me some space. The wedding was off, and I needed a few days to consider the rest of the relationship. He kept asking me why, like he couldn't believe I was breaking off the wedding because of a little old thing like $50,000 in debt, 3 surprised children, and a complete shutdown of the subject. Then he called me shallow, that money means more to me than love. It went on, but I'm already sick of reliving this. He does swear there is no possibility of any more surprised children, period. He packed a duffel full of clothes and left, having convinced himself that I was either cheating on him or shallow and money hungry. So I spent the evening rereading comments and browsing for rent sites. The lease is in my name only because of the judgments on his credit report. This is what I've become, lying to landlords because of my deadbeat fiancé. He probably has some sort of resident rights anyway. At least he's out of the apartment for now. I texted him a long message an hour ago. Johnny, before we join our lives together, I need to know you can handle your responsibilities like an adult. Go to the hearing. I will help you with a lawyer, with a plane ticket, whatever. If you treat me like a partner, maybe we can rebuild our relationship. I love you. He hasn't answered. I hope he listens to reason once he cools down. He has so many good qualities, I had to share the very worst in my post to you all. He would be an excellent father if he wanted visitation, and I am willing to put in the work to sort this out and move forward with these kids if he is. He's convinced himself he's screwed for life, and I think it's paralyzed him. It's a terrifying place to be. I know basically everyone wanted me to kick him to the curb, but I'm hoping this break is enough of a come-to-Jesus moment for him to prove he's not a deadbeat. Basically, if he wants to fight for this relationship, he has to go to the hearing and handle his business. Get on a payment plan and keep on it. Then relationship counseling. Lots and lots of relationship counseling. Then, we'll see what happens. I still may break up permanently, but at least he'll have sorted out a thing or two. Maybe I'm just holding on to hope. So that's it. I really wish I had thought of something awesome to say during the argument, but life isn't a movie. Ball's in his court. Let's see if he mans up or not. Anyone been through anything like this before? I did blindside him a little because I, too, had been way too passive in letting this slide. How do I help him help himself? /relevant comments. Commenter. He would be an excellent father if he wanted visitation. What girl? He would be a doctor if he graduated from medical school. He would be a millionaire if he won the Powerball. If he had wings, he'd be a bird. What he is a total failure as a father, ×3. He participated in the creation of 3 little ones, abandoned them emotionally and financially, and now complains that they are a burden. 3 children growing up fatherless, which will color their lives forever because of him. This is the depth of compassion and empathy that he is capable of. This is how he treats the truly powerless and dependent, even though he has every legal and moral obligation to support them, because there's nothing in it for him. His maybe they're not mine excuse is a total load, because if he had an iota of humanity in him, he'd care enough to find out. Adds an edit to her post. He hasn't answered the text with the offer to help. I've called the landlord and requested a new lock for the door. He's not on the lease, and it's probably not legal, but as someone pointed out, and I agree, he's averse to going to court. Responses have been passionate. I don't think I was clear. We're essentially done. I returned his grandmother's ring and told him to give me space. If he accepts help and steps up to his obligations to his children with no backsliding, only then will I consider taking him back. Not for immediate marriage, Jesus Christ, I'm not insane. Not to get pregnant, as some lovely commenter suggested. But considering it's morning and he still hasn't answered the text, it probably doesn't matter. Second update 1 month later. I don't even know where to start. After I called off the wedding and returned his grandmother's engagement ring, he packed a duffel full of his clothes and left. It's been about a month, and I haven't heard a peep from him. I changed the locks on the apartment, but he hasn't been back for his stuff anyway. He blocked me on Facebook, and when I gave in and tried to give him a call a week later, he changed his phone number too. I heard he was staying at his best bro's house, courtesy of bro's girlfriend. Trust me, I went through all the stages of grief, denial, anger, acceptance, etc., and I finally accepted he wasn't coming back. I thought maybe he'd gone back to his home state to be with one of the baby mamas, but his car was parked in the parking lot at his work. I may have driven past once or twice. The hearing was scheduled for early this week. Finally, tonight, I plucked up my courage and went to Best Bro's house to confront him. The least he could do is get his crap out of my apartment, right? I grabbed up his many unopened child support notices, and a picture of boy number 1 he left on his dresser. It's the only picture of the 3 kids that he has, and he left it behind. Best Bro answered the door, and what followed was just about the most awkward conversation ever. I can't remember the conversation verbatim, but I asked where ex-fiancé was, and Best Bro said he wasn't there. He was being all evasive, so I asked if he went to the hearing or not. Best Bro looked confused. What hearing? I told him the child support hearing for his 3 kids. Best Bro looked super confused, like I was crazy. Then he asked if I was seeing anyone else, other than ex-fiancé. Of course I wasn't. I gave Best Bro a very abbreviated version, kicked ex-fiancé out because he was ignoring his child support from his baby mamas. He had a hearing earlier this week. I was getting loud because I've been bottling this up, and Best Bro's girlfriend came out to see what was going on. She's the one who told me, her exact words, "Your man lost his damn mind." The weekend after I kicked him out, he went out to a bar with Best Bro for some good old girl bashing. He met up with some 22-year-old bartender and hooked up. Reddit, he married her last weekend. Drove up to Reno, we're a couple hours from the Nevada border, and did the whole Chapel of Love thing. Best Bro and his girlfriend were the witnesses. They hadn't really supported his decision, but he had them convinced I was a cheating WHRE, and he was so heartbroken. Plus, Best Bro's girlfriend implied later that he'd overstayed his welcome by crashing at their house for most of a month. I was shocked and pissed and wanted to cry because I sorta got the vibe that Best Bro still didn't believe I wasn't cheating. So I grabbed the court documents from my car and gave them to him to pass along to my ex. I doubt they'll open them, but the fact they're from his old state's county child support division should be good evidence. I don't know why I should care about their opinion. Neither one of them called me during this. I thought I was their friend too. But they believed him. Now I'm back home, surrounded by his crap, and trying to sort out my feelings. I feel like I've just watched someone blow through all the bridges out warning signs and drive off a cliff. I told my ex I'd help him get a lawyer for the hearing, help him with the plane ticket. Instead of taking care of his business, he went and married some chick he'd known for like 2.5 weeks at most. I should feel bad for the girl, his new wife, WTF, for what she's just gotten into, but she must either be a real piece of work herself or just an idiot. Who marries someone they've known for that short a time? And I know someone out there is thinking, you're an idiot. He had to have known her for longer. He was cheating before this. Well, I'm certain he wasn't. He's a homebody by nature. There was never any missing time in our relationship, and Best Bro was pretty clear they'd met at the bar that night. So basically, instead of going to his child support hearing, he was moving in with his new wifey and probably doing what newly married people do. I hope they're happy together. Of course I don't. I guess my next stop is the legal advice subreddit to figure out what to do with his stuff. He might have a contempt of court warrant out for him for skipping the hearing, so I doubt he'll sue me if I toss it all, but I do want to cover my tail. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. He has a train wreck of a life. He just hid it from you for a while. You were the part of his life that was a deviation from normal. Now he's back to normal. I know you're sad and confused and angry, and feeling all the rest of what I'm sure are a lot of conflicting and intense emotions. But now, when you're ready, you can go on and find someone with a hell of a lot less baggage, someone who is not actively screwing up his life, doubling down on those screw-ups, and threatening to take you down with him. Commenter 2. Other people have baggage. This guy had one of those enormous mega containers that they put on ships.
Story 5.
My FWB convinced me to keep our baby, and now I spend every weekend pretending to be a mom when all I feel is emptiness and regret. Posted by you/out of the asylum. I know this will make me seem bad and all, but above all, I really just need a place to vent. I can't talk about it with my friends or family, nor do I really want to. I'm 27, and I've had a FWB situation with a guy I went to college with. Let's call him Mark. We were both young and not ready for a relationship. Then I got pregnant. I told Mark about it since I wanted to discuss our options: termination, adoption, or even giving him custody if he wanted to. I never wanted kids, so I'd be fine with any compromise. However, Mark didn't take it well. I remember him insisting we could make it work, especially since we were both in our last year of college. He wanted to get married and for us to be a family. I refused. He got his family involved. They called and texted me all the time, even showing up at my part-time job. I know I have no one to blame but myself, but I gave up. I had too many things going on at that time, like the loss of my mother, the stress with the rest of the family, and some stuff going on with my best friend that I won't get into. I remember feeling horrible, but I relented and agreed to keep the baby, although I still refused to get married to Mark. Now we have a 5-year-old daughter together. I'm a mess. I never wanted kids, and although I'm trying, I can't feel any motherly love for her. What makes it worse is that she's genuinely a good kid. She doesn't throw many tantrums, she's always kind, and she doesn't expect much. I feel guilty for hating her. I feel bad all the time. I only get to have her on the weekends, and Mark has her every other day, but that doesn't make me feel better. She talks about wanting to see me and her dad together, but I just can't. I screamed at her once when she drew a little picture of me and Mark holding hands. I apologized after, but I still felt so guilty. I don't know what I'm doing. I just needed to write everything down and get it off my chest. I know I'm a bad mother, I know it. But I don't know how to be better. I don't even know if I want to be better. I just want to give up my parental rights, but even the thought makes me feel even worse. I'm stuck in a hell of my own making. I know I should have fought harder and probably just aborted her. Damn me for being weak, I guess. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. She's trying to be extra good so you'll like her. I used to do that with my mom all the time until one day I decided in my head that I was done with it. Commenter 2. Yeah, that part of her story made me so sad for her daughter. That poor kid knows her mom doesn't want her and is doing everything she can to appease her. Op doesn't realize it, but she's already made a little codependent people pleaser. She better leave soon while she still has time to forget the time before. Commenter 3. Giving up might make you feel worse, but when your daughter is old enough to realize that her mother doesn't want her, it'll affect the rest of her life. This is your screw-up, not hers. Just bail now and live with it. The alternative is far worse. Commenter 4. If he's a good father and loves her, then maybe you should give up your rights and go live your life. Your emotions are coming through, and she'll never understand why you don't like her. It might be better to let her go. She deserves love 24/7, not just on weekdays. And if you are screaming at her, you aren't hiding your dislike of her being around. Update 1 week later. Some things have happened, and I need to write them down, maybe even get some insight. I'll call my daughter Abby for the sake of this post. I ended up telling Mark about my desire to change the custody arrangement and maybe even remove my parental rights. Many people here agreed that it's the best choice, both for me and for Abby. He didn't take it well and actually texted me about it throughout the week. He insisted we could work out whatever was bothering me. We agreed a while ago that texting is okay, but calls are for emergencies only. So when he called me on Friday evening and pleaded with me to come see Abby, I agreed. This is what I really need to talk about. I've seen Abby cry before, but this was something else. She had a complete meltdown, screaming and crying once I got there. She just clung to my leg and screamed at me not to leave her, asking why I wanted to leave her and what she did wrong. I cried. I was honestly horrified by how badly she reacted. Mark's mom ended up telling Abby that I was planning on leaving her and that she wasn't going to my house this weekend. I had to take Abby to my place sooner than expected, and Mark actually spent the night over as well. He said he's too concerned about Abby and me to leave us alone. I'm completely lost. Even with the way I said that I wanted to give up my parental rights, I just can't do it now. The image of Abby crying and pleading with me not to leave is just stuck in my mind. I feel hopeless about the entire situation. Currently, I'm lying with Abby on the couch and she's watching TV. She hasn't really left my side since yesterday. I'm used to her pointing at the TV while talking about her favorite characters from whatever cartoon is on. Right now, she's just lying by my side and staying quiet. I can hear Mark moving around in the kitchen. He called in sick to work and said he's staying here for the weekend. I have no idea what to do. And I'm sorry, but I no longer want to leave Abby, that's not an option anymore. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. What the actual F was Mark's mom playing at, telling her like that? Ab needs to tell Mark that his mother isn't allowed anywhere near that girl anymore after that. It's manipulative and abusive. Ab, I don't mean to sound dramatic, but I would get legal advice over this. I read the last posts, and it sounds like his family is really nasty and manipulative, and it's impacting your relationship with your daughter. They nagged you into continuing a pregnancy you didn't want, they told your daughter that you were leaving her so exactly this would happen, and on top of that, Mark's just milling around your kitchen now, playing happy families? Also, notice how you screamed at Abby when she drew a photo of you and Mark together? You need therapy, obviously, no offense, but this thing with his family pushing you and Mark together isn't okay either. Get him out of your house, now. Also, if the mother told Abby this, what else has she said to her that you haven't heard about? Commenter 2. Your poor daughter, she is probably terrified to do anything because she thinks she'll upset you and you'll leave. Think really hard about this. Are you going to be ready to give up in a year or two? If so, it's best to have her grieve now so she can start processing everything. If you choose to stay, you have to put in the work to repair this. You have to step up. Parenting is hard, but you do what you have to because the kids deserve that. Be there for her. But don't let her down later just to make things better for you now. Commenter 3. Abby needs a therapist, as do you, as does Mark. Mark's mom needs to take a long walk off a short pier and butt out. If you want to make this work out, whatever that looks like, you need outside support that benefits all of you, with no biases. Especially for the kid. Second update 1 month later. I'm not sure if people are still interested in what's going on here, but here goes. Writing everything down helps me keep track of things, and I also want to hear people's thoughts. For anyone wondering how Abby is doing, she seems to be doing okay. She's still a little clingy with me, but she's back to her happy self. We've been observing her behavior closely, and Mark decided that a therapist isn't needed. I'm not sure I agree with that, but Abby really does seem to be feeling all right. And for anyone wondering about Mark's mom, she hasn't had any contact with Abby since what happened, though Mark has been talking with her. I've been trying to read all the comments people left on my last posts. What was written about Mark got me thinking. I haven't actually mentioned it before since I didn't think it was important, but back in college, we were both using protection, with me also being on birth control. I do believe the pregnancy was a genuine accident, though I became a bit paranoid after some of the things people wrote. Mark has dated some girls over the past few years, as far as I'm aware. We haven't had too much contact, though. We would mostly talk about Abby when we did text. Still, the past month has been more than weird for me. We've been talking more. He apologized to me a lot. I can't tell if those apologies were real or not. My best friend told me to keep Mark at arm's length, but it's been hard to do that with him coming over more often on the weekends to spend time with Abby and me. He's been inviting me to his home too, and I went a few times when Abby really begged me to. I'm trying to make sense of the situation, but it's hard. I'll be having my first therapy session tomorrow, online, so there's that too. I guess I'm hoping for some help in the comments? I don't know. I don't know what to expect. I'll try to answer any questions people might have for me. I know this post is probably kind of a mess. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Mark and his mom are very concerning to me. They are both being very manipulative with you and your daughter. Telling a kid about adult problems that they aren't equipped to handle is abusive. If they cared, they could have said something like, "Mom isn't feeling great right now. We're giving her time to feel better, so we will be going over less." When we love and care about someone, we give them what they need, and Mom needs a little space right now. That would have been compassionate and explained things on her level. Mark and his mother are extremely emotionally immature and need to grow their emotional competence a lot. To be fair, I wouldn't be comfortable leaving even an unwanted kid with them. They sound like they would torture the kid with "guess mommy didn't want you," or something like that. I get how hurting your daughter isn't an option for you. Even when she is unwanted and you are resentful about the situation, she is still a human, and basic empathy makes it hard to hurt anyone, especially a child, on purpose. Your situation is complex, and all parties involved need therapy, if only to have a neutral and objective observer document the dynamics and maybe give some constructive feedback to Mark and his mom. Your feelings are valid and unfortunately not uncommon. Take care of yourself. Commenter 2. Wow, I think we all know where this is going. Wedding bells, anyone? Seriously though, my snarky attitude aside, if this is real, I don't understand your sudden 180. How easily swayed are you? Have you ever actually done anything involving this kid that you want to do? You had her even though you didn't want to, because other people convinced you, and now you've stayed when you wanted to go because Abby had a meltdown, even though, deep down, you know it's not in your best interest. You're also basically living with the guy you didn't want to be with, because he insists he needs to be there to make sure Abby is okay. Like, why are you such a pushover? And honestly, why does it make me so angry? I just find your wishy-washy attitude so annoying. Grow a backbone and stop having your life dictated by everyone but yourself, for God's sake. Ops response. It's actually some of the harsher comments that I got that made me think back on some things. I won't go into details as to why, but I've always been a pushover. I'm trying to set boundaries, but everyone keeps crossing them and I don't have the energy to deal with all of that most of the time. It doesn't excuse me, but I'm hoping that therapy might help me become a bit better. And about changing my mind, I can't really explain it. It's hard and I don't feel entirely comfortable, but I don't want to leave Abby behind. I can't put my feelings about it into words. Commenter 3. I'm glad things are better, but do not start a relationship with Mark for at least a while. Abby needs some stability and reassurance, and the focus should be on her. Best of luck, please give that child the words of affirmation she needs. Ops response. I don't want a relationship with Mark. I feel uncomfortable around him, and I've been trying to set some boundaries between us for the past few weeks, but he keeps crossing them by inviting himself into my home. And thank you for the kind words, I'm trying to check up on Abby as much as I can. Third update 3 months later. Hi, I don't know if anyone is going to read this, but I have been getting some private messages from people asking about me, so I figured I could make an update. I've been going to therapy. It's been difficult. Everything was alright at first, to be honest. My therapist and I got comfortable around each other. I think she's nice. We've been talking about my issues a lot more recently. Safe to say, it's kinda sad to realize how crappy my life has really been since the start. I've been taking my new medication for a few weeks, but I'm not sure it's making a difference. For anyone wondering, yes, Abby has been seeing a therapist for about 2 months now. I put my foot down about it for once. It felt weird. Abby's been happier, I think. Her therapist and I occasionally chat about her progress, and he's been giving me some tips about what Abby wants. We've been spending more time together. I have alternate weekends with her now. She's good at solving puzzles. She likes octopuses for some reason. When I walk around the house, she tries to trip me by walking around my legs. Like a cat, I think. It doesn't work, but she keeps trying. I'm doing the same thing with her that my mom did with me. Cooking is an important skill. For now, she gets to watch me in the kitchen and see how I prepare things. I think I'll let her start giving suggestions and start asking about the proper steps for making a meal. We're going to wait a bit before she starts helping around. I'm sure some people wonder what happened with Mark. Nothing, to be honest. I stopped opening the door when he came by. He hasn't really been bothering me. We only really talked when we changed the custody arrangement a bit. We text mainly about Abby now. From what Abby says, Mark's mom has been around again. But I think she's on her best behavior around my daughter since Abby hasn't been asking any weird questions. I'm not sure what else to say. Things are fine otherwise. Maybe I'll update again if anything interesting happens or to tell people how things have changed. Thank you to the people who have been reaching out. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. I've thought about you a lot, really happy to see an update. I'm glad you and Abby started therapy, the best decision that could have been made. I'd like to ask, how are you feeling right now about Abby after starting to get professional help for both of you? How is she feeling now, as far as you can tell? Hugs, Op, I wish you and her the best. Op's response. My therapist explained that I don't hate Abby, not really. I've had a lot of resentment bubbling up inside due to the circumstances and timing of her birth. I've been officially diagnosed with PPD, so that certainly didn't make things better. She encouraged me to take things slow and not feel pressured into immediately becoming an attentive and loving mother. I've been spending time with Abby now more out of my own choice and not because I didn't see any other option. It's been helping. And as far as I can tell, Abby's doing mostly all right. From what her therapist told me, she feels like my protector. She's been seeing for years that I'm sad all the time. When she was being taken care of by my best friend, he'd tell her I'm just having a really bad day or week. She's never really seen me truly happy, so she decided to be the hero that makes me happy. Apparently, she was scared of losing me and the opportunity to make me happy when her grandma told her I was going to abandon her. Still can't really wrap my head around it. Her therapist has been working with her to let go of that mentality, and it seems to be going all right.
Story 6.
My husband promised he was done with gambling, but I found out he's secretly spending thousands on cards again, and I don't think I can forgive him twice. Posted by you/conscious_shine_8265. My husband, 42M, and I, 32F, have been married for 5 years and have a 3-year-old daughter. My husband's card hobby is killing our marriage. For background, last year he started getting into a hobby/business of buying and selling NFL/NBA cards, which he began after having gambling issues with virtual roulette. He ended up hiding how much he was spending, putting at least $8,000 on credit cards in 2 to 3 months without selling any cards. I am the breadwinner in the family. I make approximately $7,200 a month post-taxes, and he makes about $4,000 post-taxes monthly. Before getting into this hobby, he also bought a $90,000 car with a $1,745 car payment because it made him happy, although I said it was not a good idea. Due to the spending issue and other factors, like his anger issues, I filed for divorce last year. He said he would quit the hobby, sell all his things, go to therapy, and change. I canceled the divorce and stayed to work on the marriage with a marriage counselor. We did sessions, but over time he hasn't felt like they've been necessary. We now have $72,000 in debt consolidation because of the cards, his past gambling, and a multitude of other things. 1 year later, he is now into the hobby again and has already put about $800 on the credit cards. He is trying to use TikTok or similar platforms to create a game platform and make money. His philosophy is, you have to spend money to make money. For example, he wanted to buy $1,000 worth of packs of unopened cards to try and sell them. When I explained that I am not a fan of this hobby, he said I can never let him have a hobby and that I should be glad it's not golf because he would never be home. I honestly feel like this is not going to end well. We also tried splitting finances, but that didn't work well as he was not always able to pay me back for half the mortgage or our daughter's school. I really don't think this marriage is going to last unless I support this hobby and let him buy/spend on whatever he thinks is necessary. Edit to add, I went through his eBay account and found that he placed 2 bids for a $1,500 card and a $1,900 card, and made an offer on a third card for $1,900. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. He doesn't have a hobby. He has an addiction, and that addiction is gambling. Opening trading card packs is the same thing as gambling, only, in this case, you're hoping to hit it big with that one card that sells for hundreds to thousands. Trading cards can be a hobby if one responsibly collects and buys single cards they want for their collection and occasionally opens packs for fun. Your husband is not doing that. He needs to address and seek treatment for his gambling addiction, and due to his addiction's close association with collecting trading cards, he is going to need to give that up. If he can't, not only will your marriage not survive, but he will also ruin his life financially beyond repair. Commenter 2. Fool me once, shame on you. But you've been fooled once and are now willfully letting it happen again. You're $72,000 in debt so far, think about how much that'll be in the future. At this point, you have a 3-year-old daughter. Make her the priority instead of desperately holding on to this marriage. Commenter 3. How is everyone glossing over the $1,745 per month car payment? Ops response. With the insurance, it's actually around $2,100 to $2,200. Commenter 4. I'm sorry, but how was he physically able to get a car loan and purchase a $90,000 car with his income and debt? Those numbers just don't add up. Ops response. I honestly really don't know. I remember it took a lot of lenders to deny it, and Chase was the last one to approve it. At the time, he was working more overtime and making a bit more, and we definitely had less debt. Commenter 5. Ma'am, at this point, you are as much the problem as he is. You aren't putting your foot down, you aren't protecting yourself, and you're allowing it to continue. Wake up, walk out, or get him in with an addiction therapist and cut off all his access to money and cards. You can do this. You deserve better. Ops response. I totally agree with you. I started seeing a therapist to help me with this as well. Update 5 days later. I had asked for a divorce 2 days ago, but he told me he still wanted to be together. Today, it was brought up again, and he said he would get the divorce and that he has accepted it. I have a great sense of relief, yet a significant amount of grief for the past, present, and future, as well as not knowing what the future will hold and whether I made the right choice for my daughter. The relief is knowing I won't have to worry about any hobbies or being yelled at and called names for reasons that are dumb. We have not obtained a lawyer, but I assume we will do that in the upcoming weeks. I hope this was the best decision for both of us, and that we can have a happy future apart for our daughter. If there is any advice for life during the divorce process and afterward with children involved, we have one daughter who is turning 3, then I would love that as well. Cheers to new beginnings. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. I'm echoing everyone here. There is no we in lawyer. You need to go get the best divorce attorney in town before he does. You have loads of financial baggage to unpack with his gambling and hobbies, and is not always paying me back for our child. Your lawyer and you should, in my eyes, want a forensic accountant to take a real good look at all his finances to make sure you are actually aware of the whole truth. That will include making sure there aren't things in your name you are unaware of. Yes, you did a debt consolidation, but that doesn't mean you saw everything. And since you have a child whom he has shorted in the past, getting a support order with extra insurances built in will be your lawyer's job. Maybe you want him to fund 3 or 6 months up front because he's demonstrated that he is reckless with money. You probably want a judge to agree to direct garnishment of his wages rather than money going to him first. Once money is in his hands, he's irresponsible. Prove that point and get the garnishment. So, and this is the voice of experience, you need a really good lawyer who has experience working with complex financial settlements. This isn't a standard here we agree, we just want out divorce that any family lawyer could handle. Start asking around. Ask your banker or your investment person for recommendations. And if you don't have these types of people, your friends might. Good luck, it sounds like you are making the right choice. Now just steel yourself to probably have to have a fight to ensure he contributes his share to his daughter and to you. Don't let it feel mean to want a garnishment. Don't let him, your inner monologue, or anyone else tell you that turning over all the stones in his financial dealings is wrong, too hard on him, not trusting, blah blah blah. Any divorce is tragic. Many divorces are complicated, and yours is one of them because of his financial malfeasance. Stay the course, for your daughter and for yourself. Oh, and also, don't abandon the marital home without legal advice. Generally speaking, if you want to maintain it as a residence for you and your daughter, he has to leave, and a liquidation would be postponed until her maturity/high school graduation. But that might not be feasible given his finances. Just don't move out without direct advice of counsel. Again, best of luck. Second update 5 days later. This will be the last update I am posting. I met with my own lawyer today and found a house for my daughter and me. I'm going to start moving out this weekend, as well as file the papers. There has been great relief knowing I am no longer going to be in this marriage. I'm so happy I finally stood up for my daughter and myself, and I'm happy to start my new life. We will still be amicable, as it is in our daughter's best interest, and I want him to be a part of her life. I do believe that is the best for her. Third update 2 months later. We are in the waiting period for the divorce, and I did file. I have moved out, and we are living separately but are still friends. I am working with a therapist to focus on myself, my decision, and the emotions that come with it. My biggest thing is that, even after 2 months, I still think we might be able to work on things. With time, we've both gained greater perspective on where things went wrong in the marriage. We are going to do couples counseling to work on ourselves together and become better co-parents. We're both still thinking it may be salvageable after a year of separation and intensive individual and couples counseling. The past 2 months reflecting with my therapist have made me realize that I have played a part in allowing the gambling to happen and buying cards, as when he would hit big, I would be happy and ask him to keep going. I also always wanted to go on expensive trips, which put us further into debt. I truly believe we both played a part in the marriage and the separation, and it will take both of us, and a lot of hard work, to maybe make it work again in the future. But for now, I'm going to stick it out and finish filing for divorce, especially because he mentioned wanting to start an e-commerce business, and it immediately brought me flashbacks to being financially and personally free. Thanks, everyone, for all the support, advice, and any future advice. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Up, your hubby/marriage has multiple issues, with your husband's gambling addiction at the core. A marriage is built on a foundation of truth, honesty, and trust. I hate to break it to you, but this foundation is not just cracked, it is irreparable. There is no rebuilding it. Your husband lied to you repeatedly about his addiction and, when confronted, made zero effort to course correct and 100% effort to hide his tracks. The only way to rebuild the foundation is to start over, but how many more times are you going to allow him to lie to you and jeopardize your financial future and your daughter's? Consider this, he not only hid his spending and lied to you about it, but by definition, this is known as financial infidelity. There is a distinct possibility that if he does not commit to long-term gambling therapy, he will go back to his old habits. Here is a cold, hard truth. People treat us the way we allow them to. Read that again. Why would he change? He behaves badly. You demand changes? He promises changes. He resorts to the same old behavior. Rinse times repeat, and the cycle begins again. Our children are smart. They learn by the examples we teach them at home. Right now, you are teaching your daughter to tolerate and settle for less than she deserves in life and in love. You are teaching her to tolerate and accept a partner who is a manipulative, cunning, pathological liar who does not respect her mother and who could care less whether she has food to eat, a roof over her head, gifts for holidays, and a college fund. Your daughter may learn a very harsh truth far too soon. She may learn that one of the two people who is supposed to love her more than anything in the world really does not, because he is so deep into his addiction that he is, on any given day, a week, a month, a moment, away from losing everything, including her. The heart wants what the heart wants. Stop loving the potential you see in your partner and start making decisions based on the reality today and what is best for your child. I bet if the roles were reversed and this was your daughter involved with this man, you would not only tell her to leave but also help her pack. Commenter 2. Bro, what is up even thinking? Nothing about this screams save marriage because that man is literally tearing the entire family apart now with his addiction. Commenter 3. I'm going to go ahead and guess she has low self-esteem and worries she can't do better or won't find someone else. Her husband promises to do better, so she jumps on it until he gets back into his addiction again, and then she threatens divorce again. Commenter 4. The therapist isn't doing up any favors either. Oh yeah, this addiction was totally partly my fault because I allowed it to happen. Commenter 5. The past 2 months reflecting with my therapist have made me realize that I have played a part in allowing the gambling to happen and buying cards, as when he would hit big, I would be happy and ask him to keep going. I also always wanted to go on expensive trips, which put us further into debt. Op snuck that into the last update. She was telling him to continue the hobby, and they were going on expensive trips. He still may be the bigger problem, but she certainly contributed to their financial issues as well.